That's right. Welcome in. It is another edition of the Magic Valley Prepcast on IdahoSports.com, chopping it up with the biggest stories from the Magic Valley week in, week out. My name is Brandon Baney. We are joined by the Z-Man himself. It is Scott Burton, and you might be thinking Z is, well, it's not Scott Burton, it's Scott Burton. Scott, what's up? You've got the Z's next to your name on the video feed today.
Well, do you remember when you were a kid and I don't know whether you were excited for school to start or whatever, or even if you were or weren't, after that first week, you felt like you were wiped out completely, just zapped of all energy. Well, that's exactly what the C's stand for. Holy cannolis. I am exhausted, and forgot what it was like to be at an event until 10:30 at night, which is what we did last night, which prompted a change in game times for this particular sport. But holy cow. Yeah, it's that first week kind of acclimation, if you will.
Yeah, peeking behind the curtain, Scott is the athletic director at Jerome High School. The Jerome volleyball team hosted Buell last night, right? Mm-hmm. Is that the event you are referring to? Got over a little later than you would have liked?
Yeah. Yeah. It did. By the time I got out of the gym, came home, whatever, and I live pretty much right next to the school. I get home and I look at my clock thinking, all right, time to sit down. And I mean, it's almost 10:30. And I'm like, this sucks. I mean, all day at the school, you just spent 16 hours there, and now you get to come home and go to bed and do it all over again. But, it's what we do. But it did prompt a little change in game times for our volleyball squad. So we just bumped everything up a half an hour. So that 10:30 turns into 10 o'clock. So yay.
Yeah, that's a good move for sure. The soccer matches typically get over a little earlier than that because you're somewhat dependent upon the daylight. You can't play under lights, but it's also nicer if you have that natural light. Scott, and speaking of Jerome Tiger Athletics, the Jerome boys soccer team has been off to a nice start this season. You guys made that trip north to Idaho last week. You've continued the winning this week. It's been a nice start to the year for the Jerome Tigers out on the pitch.
Yeah, it has. I mean, it's been, Jerome over the course of, the last several years have been very good at soccer. We're coming out of a couple of down years where we just didn't have the right group meshing. It was, you're all subject to the class of kids that come in anyway. And we just kind of didn't have that vibe going. And we've got it back this year. And, a lot of it is, Coach Wood does a fantastic job. And I remember, a meeting that Coach Wood and I had with the boys. And we just kind of laid it on the line and just said, you know what, you are going to represent Jerome High School in every way possible. So you better get it together and step it up. And I think that, transcended into, their pride in the way that they started their season. Now they're young and they're going to make some young mistakes, but you couldn't ask for a better start. I mean, we figured, okay, let's test them early, put them on a bus, send them 12 hours straight north, and let's see how you do against teams you've never played and in environments you've never played in. And so they opened their season on the road at Post Falls and kind of got through that one, won that one 2-0. You could tell it was the first game. And then the second day, we sent them to Lakeland. And they showed up 15 minutes before kickoff just because they went to Denny's Saturday morning for breakfast. And Denny's was being Denny's. And they got out of there as kids are grabbing their meals off the plates and running to the bus. And so they got there just in time to put their shoes on and ended up winning that one like 7-1. So a good start. Oh, and then last night they had their third road game in a row. They drive all the way up to Middleton and in a defensive battle won that one 6-5.
It's been an impressive start. The key was they probably all went to Denny's and had the nice Grand Slam breakfast, the sausage, the pancakes, the eggs, carbo loaded, and then ran it off, right?
The fact that you're rattling off exactly what that is at Denny's might be a point of concern. My default's always moons over my hammy.
I think we found our podcast title, Scott.
Yeah. So, I mean, Denny's, no offense to our friends from Denny's. I don't have any friends from Denny's, but if I did, no offense to them, but Denny's is not really the place that you go to. It's the place you end up, right?
Well, for the Jerome Tigers, maybe we can get some of those boosters to, fundraise a little bit so you guys can go to a
I'm going to hear about that one.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Of course.
No, I'm going to hear about the Denny's one. I'm going to have Denny's picketers in front of my house.
You know what is funny, Scott, is that Jerome did this big long trip on the bus, right? 12 hours north. No easy way to get to North Idaho, Post Falls and Rathdrum, where Lakeland is. The Coeur d'Alene volleyball team, Scott, they went down to Kuna to play in a season opening tournament, and they always find a way to fly down. They flew down to Boise, but this happens every year. I feel like they're always playing in the championship, and they're always like, oh boy, our flight leaves like soon. We got to either win this now, or we're gonna have to leave in the middle of the match and forfeit. Luckily, they were able to finish off the sweep of Mountain View in the championship. But boy, what a nice problem that would be, huh?
No kidding. And now you wonder why some of these places are constantly successful. There is a correlation there. I mean, you've got that going on, and you got schools like us that we're just trying to get guys out of their part-time jobs to get to practice and make a bus, have a bus, find somebody to drive the bus, those kinds of things. So yeah, it's a whole different world in some of these places.
Yeah, just having a bus is half the battle sometimes, because there's activities buses and there's regular buses, and you got to make sure your bus isn't being used by somebody else. And yeah, it's a whole headache for sure. Okay, back to the boys soccer team. So they're off to a 3-0 start. The intensity picks up a little bit tomorrow. I mean, we're recording this on Wednesday, August 28th. Next Thursday is when the schedule picks up some intensity. First Great Basin Conference match of the season, Scott. Twin Falls comes to Jerome. And I guess if you had to single out a team in the preseason, at least in my opinion, that I would look at as a favorite in the Great Basin, it would probably have to be Twin Falls, right? Canyon Ridge has long been a pretty good program, but they've moved up to the 6A ranks. So, I mean, what do you make of this landscape?
You know what? It changes a little bit. Last year, Canyon Ridge, they were the district champs, but Wood River, they were the state champs. And, even though Wood River lost a bunch of seniors, it's still their title to lose on the state level until somebody knocks them off. And with the absence of Canyon Ridge, it really does open things up in this conference, because year after year, Canyon Ridge has taken one of those two spots. And then that second spot has been a battle really between Wood River and Jerome. And that's kind of how it's been. But now with them gone, it's going to be 6 teams fighting for those 2 spots. And it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to kind of get a handle on this, because there's so many unknowns. We talked about Wood River being the state champs. They did lose almost 10 players, or maybe even more, from last year's team, but they've always got good young ones stepping up, right? There's some unknowns. Mountain Home, Burley, and Twin, they've all got good returning players, but they also did lose some key factors from last year's team. So I don't know. We'll see where we're at mid-season, because there are a lot of unknowns, and Canyon Ridge just opened up an opportunity for one of these other teams to qualify for the state tournament.
Yeah, and I guess I shouldn't dismiss Wood River so readily, but I do. I always kind of look at, what did you lose to graduation? And then I'm not as plugged in to know that, Wood River had a good JV team or whatever. So I'm always just looking strictly at the varsity level, but of course Wood River will be in the mix. I feel like Mountain Home has kind of been sneaky the past couple of years out on the soccer pitch as well. And then, like you said, Jerome, and I still think Twin Falls, maybe, they played Canyon Ridge last night, Scott, in what is now a non-conference game. It was only a 2-0 win for Canyon Ridge. Things got a little chippy. I was reading in the Times News that 5 yellow cards got handed out between the two rivals.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. It's probably, I don't know, it's probably a little bit more, I would guess a little bit more chippy now than it would have been had they been in the same conference, because you're in the same conference, you better watch yourself, because any stupid mistake you make is huge in the conference standings. Now it doesn't matter. So you can kind of let it fly just a little bit more because it is non-conference. It doesn't have quite the impact. So I could see how that could get a little bit more edgy, if you will.
Yeah, good spirited competition on both sides there. So I mean, it's still very early in the season. We'll continue to keep an eye on things in the Great Basin race, but the Jerome Tigers off to a 3-0 start, and I mean, you've already beaten 2 of the 4 teams that reside up north in the Inland Empire League, Scott. I mean, that puts Jerome probably like right in the middle of the league standings. If you guys want to join the conference permanently.
No, I think we're gonna be okay. We've got to take our wins when we get them, celebrate them, and try to move on, because it's a tough conference depending on the sport down here in the Great Basin, because it's like soccer's been owned by Canyon Ridge for the most part, baseball by Twin and Minico, football by Twin and Minico, and so when we can sneak in there and get some wins, now we're on the right track.
Yep, got to take advantage. That is for sure. All right, well, let's go from one sport where you run a lot to another sport where you run a lot, cross country. We'll just keep on running here. There were a couple of season opening meets. Nothing too like large yet. The larger meets always happen in like September, I feel like. But
right.
in the Magic Valley, there is a meet coming up this week, specifically for those small schools that are in the Magic Valley. And I think the most intriguing part about this meet that's coming up, it's going to be in Heyburn, which is part of that Minidoka County, Mini-Cassia area. I can't remember which county it's actually in, but it's right there. But this is going to be the small schools meet hosted by Raft River and Oakley. They're kind of teaming up here to kind of put on this meet together. And usually we go, boy, Raft River and Oakley, they're usually working against each other, not with each other.
Yeah, it's a cool little deal. I mean, you think of Oakley and Raft River as just being bitter rivals, and they are in the conference in football and basketball and those kind of things. But talking to the people involved with cross country, it's like, what, we're really not that way. We push each other, and we actually kind of like each other a little bit, and you don't hear that much from conference rivals. But this particular meet that you're talking about had been hosted by Oakley for quite some time, and then Coach Jenks came to Coach Christensen at Raft River and with the idea to co-host and switch back and forth. But Raft River didn't have the experience at hosting, and so it became a co-hosted event, and it's been a really good thing. It's been a good blending of those two programs, just to support each other, if you will. And so they're going to have a lot of teams, but these teams are small. Some of them only have like 4 athletes, but it's a great kickoff event at Kasota. And if you haven't been to Kasota, it's really the venue to run in that part of the state.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about Kasota.
You drive by it, and it's funny because one of my best friends and longtime coaches that I coached with for nearly 25, 30 years was Brent Clark. And he and I had this running gag that when Kasota Park was built, is right off the freeway. And so you drive by it and you see like this big giant slide. You see a couple of other things, but you never see anyone there. And it just became really bizarre to us. And so the running gag was, if either one of us were driving by, we would take a pic of it, send it to each other, and with the caption of like, any ideas? What is this? Type of thing. But as it turns out, that place has become a really good venue, for cross country. They make a really good loop that's, I think they can make the loop about just over 1.5 miles. And so you set it up and you run the loop twice, and then you get the normal 3.1, 3.2 miles for the cross country. So it's a great venue for that.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be a really good time. In terms of who's going to be there competing, obviously Oakley and Raft River, but you're also going to have Camas County and Castleford, Declo, Dietrich, Murtaugh's going to be there, Richfield, You've got Shoshone and Valley. Those are the Magic Valley teams. Rockland is going to come over from East Idaho to run it. Rimrock's going to come over from Western Idaho to run it. And then you have some out-of-state teams as well, like Wells in Nevada, and Jackpot's going to come up and run. And also Carlin High School, which is also from Nevada. So this is going to be, 20-team meet. There's going to be some good competition here, Scott.
Yeah, it certainly will. And it definitely is a who's who in 1A cross country, especially in Southern Idaho. And we know how strong Southern Idaho is in all the 1A sports. So this is a really good early tester, for these runners.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that Owyhee's going to be there running. Not Big Bad Owyhee from Boise. No, Owyhee, Nevada.
Hey, we're 6A. We're the 1As. We need to beat you up a little bit.
Yeah, like Owyhee.
20 runners.
Yeah, like Owyhee needs more help with that. Owyhee, Nevada will be there running.
Gotcha.
Well.
Okay.
So, but I mean, this gives us a good chance too to promote. Marlo Herford wrote a fantastic season preview of statewide, the cross country storylines, the teams, the athletes to keep an eye on. It's on our website at IdahoSports.com. But I mean, in 1A cross country, especially on the girls' side, Scott, Raft River has been kind of the program of excellence here over the last 5 years, which is crazy because 6 years ago, the program didn't exist. So it's pretty much started and been at the top its entire history.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really fast rise to fame because, I mean, the Raft River program was basically started by the Christensen family. They just had, I think they had 3 daughters on it, and that was it. That was their entire team when they started it. And then next thing you know, they are winning, 5 out of the last 6 years, and they produce a runner by the name of Allie Black that you may or may not have heard of. But, I mean, it was a quick rise for Raft River cross country, and they've been good from the start.
Yeah, this program first got started because there were a pair of twin sisters, the Christensen twins, that basically wanted to try and run cross country. And luckily, cross country is a sport where there's not a lot of startup costs involved, right? You have to buy uniforms and you have to have 5 athletes. But otherwise, that's pretty much it. Like, there's no equipment. There's nothing you really have to buy outside of uniforms. So it's easy to start a it's not easy, but it's easier than other sports to start a cross country program. And so it started as this opportunity for the Christensen twins, Carly and Cambry, to run cross country basically. And they have since, both gone on to run at Utah State. And then 2 members of last year's team, Scott, are now at Utah State. In Allie Black, who we mentioned, and she was the individual champ last year. And then Heidi Harper also, who was a great track and field runner as well as cross country. So there's kind of like this Raft River to Utah State pipeline going on.
I mean, who would have thought? Let's get a D1 school that searches out a 1A school, and let's have you guys be our feeder, But tell you what, they're producing some athletes that can run at the D1 level. So, wow, good for them. It's a pipeline that you don't hear about very often, but it's certainly existing for Utah State and Raft River.
Yeah, for sure. And so the worry always is, okay, well, if Carly and Cambry were twins and they started the program and they have since moved on, are there enough athletes in the pipeline to keep the program going? Well, luckily Allie Black comes through and Heidi Harper and some of these other athletes. But I thought it was pretty telling in that season preview that Marlo wrote for our website, IdahoSports.com. She talked to Brooke Christensen, the cross country coach at Raft River, and she basically said, yeah, we were a little worried that like our program was basically, hey, we have a couple of runners and then they've got siblings that are coming up, but then those siblings graduated and we thought the program might die off. But, we've got some new families that have moved in that have expressed an interest, and it all adds up to, Scott, a record high number of participants in cross country this year at Raft River. Yeah.
I mean, you talk about these 1A schools, and, we always play that numbers game. Can they have a program survive? What if somebody gets hurt? What if this and that? But boy, you talk about a program at the 1A level that really has momentum and popularity. It's this one, and that's evidenced by a total of like 26 runners that are out for this 1A cross country program. And I didn't realize they had 26 people in the school, but they're all out for cross country, and I'm just joking. But that's a testament to the popularity of this cross country team that has been developed at Raft River. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch Raft River compete throughout the season, and Oakley and Castle Ford and Camas County and all of our small schools that are competing in the Magic Valley this season. It kind of really gets started for them at the small school meet on Friday over there in Hayburn. And we'll keep an eye on those runners. And of course, at the larger schools as well. Twin Falls always seems to be pretty good in cross country at the 5A level. So as we see cross country stories, we'll bring them to you right here on the Magic Valley Prepcast, Scott.
Yeah. Jerome hosts their big invitational tomorrow at the Jerome Country Club, where we've got the whole slew of teams coming in from all over the place to run tomorrow, and I get to be the starter. They give me the starter pistol, and I stand out there and I look all official and I fire the gun. Sometimes it misfires, and everybody just kind of like goes like this, and I got to calm them all down, and it's a lot of fun.
Now, Scott, you have to remember, because you are at the country club a lot, but it's for golf, not necessarily cross country. I know a lot of golf scrambles start with that shotgun start. This is not this. This is a starter's pistol. It's a little different, Scott.
Maybe I should have like a starter shotgun, just and dress in my golf costume, and just like maybe have my club strapped to my back, just like I came off the course and I'm starting a race. That would be cool.
Hey, I'm looking forward to it. A lot of good cross-country action. Of course, soccer off and running. Volleyball is getting going as well. Football really picks up this week as well, Scott. Yeah. It was a pretty light sampling of games in week 1 last week. The big headline probably was Minico pitching that shutout of Skyview, 17-0, right here on IdahoSports.com. And then, your conference, I always shake my head. Somebody always seems to start with a league game right out of the gates. Mountain Home and Minico play this Friday, Scott, in the first league game of the season.
Yeah. Matter of fact, over the past couple of years, I believe it was Mountain Home and Burley that started that way. And, I think the one year, a couple of years ago, you didn't think that first game was going to make a huge difference, but it did. And they had to go back to that first game to decide who made the state playoffs and who didn't. But this year, let's get going. Minico and Mountain Home. Minico, we talked a little bit about this last year. It's them and Twin. It's their conference to lose, to battle 1 and 2. You may get a surprise in there with Canyon Ridge, maybe, I don't know, but I do think there's a big drop between Minico and Twin and then the rest of the conference, if everybody can stay healthy.
It's going to be interesting. And if you want to tune in to some Magic Valley football this weekend on IdahoSports.com, we've got you covered a couple of ways. Kimberly is competing at the Rocky Mountain Rumble over at the ICCU Dome in Pocatello. They get the late game Friday night, 7:00, Scott, against Sutter Union High School from California. So Kimberly's going to play a big bad team from California. That should be a lot of fun. We will have that for you, of course, in all of the Rocky Mountain Rumble games on IdahoSports.com. And then Friday night as well, Scott, at 7:00, Burley is playing Century in a non-conference game at Highland, ironically, of all places. Century's getting turf put in on their field, not quite ready yet. So they're going to play that game at Highland. But no matter where they play it, we will have it for you on IdahoSports.com as well. So if you want to see Mac Jensen and that robo arm of his for Burley, here's your first opportunity against Century right out of the gates on IdahoSports.com.
Yeah, I love this time of year. Everything gets up and running, and there's so much to talk about. And then, of course, Sundays are made for me and my Rams. And it's just the best time of year when you get to football season. It's great.
For sure. Hey, real quick before we get out of here, Scott, one comment came in. This is from North Idaho Layman. Number 3, Dalton Carter for Twin Falls is possibly the best Idaho high school defensive back I've ever watched. I'll add some context here. Twin Falls came up to Sandpoint last week, lost in a pretty close battle. Really fun non-conference game.
Yeah.
Lehman, I don't know if they're related, but the last name Lehman, that is the quarterback for Sandpoint this year, Drew Lehman. And so that is praise from a Sandpoint fan or somebody from Sandpoint offering praise to Dalton Carter from Twin Falls. That's pretty cool.
It's very cool. And we talked about Dalton Carter last week on the podcast and his role in a lot of this stuff. And specifically when it came down to what is his role going to be against a team like Minico, who is now kind of flinging the ball around when they never used to. They would just run the wing tee, and it really made kind of his role not as important. He had to be more of a tackler than a pass defender. But now you've got the entire conference. Wood River might be the exception that likes to throw the football. And I mean, you got Jerome and their young quarterback that will throw the ball a lot. You've got Burley, and they will throw the ball. You've got Canyon Ridge, who is not afraid to throw the ball under Juan Alvarado. You've got, we talked about Minico, you got Twin, you got Mountain Home. I mean, now all of a sudden, a guy like him at the defensive back position, he's primed to have an absolutely outstanding year because he's now in a conference where the majority of the teams are throwing the football. And he is an amazing, amazing football player.
Can't wait to see him. That's for sure. Scott, you went 3-3 in the opening week of the IdahoSports.com Pick 6. Somebody went 4-2 and is right above you in the standings. Just
I wonder who that is.
The top dog right now, that was Ryan Skaggs from North Idaho. He went 5-1.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow. So, he got like some inside trader action going on there.
Yeah, who knows? But be on the lookout Thursday for this week's IdahoSports.com Pick 6 selections. A couple of Magic Valley teams that we had to pick. So it'll be a lot of fun to see who picked what and who wins at the end of the season when it's all said and done. And friendly reminder as well, right before we release our IdahoSports.com Pick 6 selections, every Thursday morning, Scott, 8 a.m. Mountain Time, 7 a.m. Pacific Time, we are launching our brand new show, Gem State Game Day. Think of it like a college game day without us being on the road. But we are going to, for 1 hour, preview the biggest storylines, the biggest matchups, the biggest games. We'll make our picks. We'll have player and coach interviews every Thursday morning live on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, and Twitter accounts. And so tune into that live tomorrow morning for week 2 of Gem State Game Day. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. So much crazy content popping up on Idaho Sports that, man, there's something for everybody. And this one is pretty cool.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you for tuning into the Magic Valley Prepcast, everybody. Scott, rest up. I know you've got that. I can already see you, working on that thumb. So when you fire that starter's pistol tomorrow, you're locked and loaded. And
yeah, that's going to be fun. I'll be pretending like I'm just like picking off gophers and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, thanks for tuning into the Magic Valley Prepcast, everybody. For Scott Burton, I'm Brandon Baney. Enjoy the competition this weekend, and we will see you next time on Idaho